Hello and welcome to another video on the JJ Think Tank. I hope you're doing well today. My video today will be about the top thinkers of the 20th century. Which thinkers had the greatest impact on me, having reflected now on my thought processes, and yes, judging the thinkers after many years. So I read all of the thinkers here mentioned for the first time a few years ago, really. More than a few years ago, around, I would say, 2019 is when I first came across these thinkers. I will mention them in a moment. But I then read some more works written by them in 2020, 2021. I revisited these thinkers a bit later on as well. But yes, I haven't analysed their thought again for a few years now. And perhaps I need to update my views. But this is really guided by my intuition, by the impact, yes, that the thinkers had on me. Because if you feel that the thinker really changed your worldview, changed how you view reality, then this shows, yes, that the thinker is a master thinker and he's onto something, yes. Of course, in our current times, there are thinkers who are still alive, and perhaps they are not even known yet, and will only become known and achieve fame after their death. Yes. So obviously, this is an out of date video because I'm referring only to thinkers from the 20th century. I'm not talking about the 21st century, obviously. But still, I thought it was worthwhile to share my thoughts with you here briefly, and perhaps my video will inspire you to read some of their works, because I think they can have a really positive impact on your life. So let's begin now. So I added a picture here, and here on the right we have Ludwig Wittgenstein. He was really an interesting person, and we could say even his life was like a story, a philosophical story, because when he was younger, he was greatly influenced by Bertrand Russell, and therefore he associated himself more with the Analytic school of philosophy, which really denies the existence of God, is quite atheistic in its worldview. It puts logic on a pedestal. It believes the universe is logical, and that all philosophical problems can be boiled down to the misapplication of language and the fact that we are lost in language, yes. And so yes, so Wittgenstein, he was associated with this school initially. But as he grew older, he radically changed his views, and he noticed the mysterious nature of the universe, and he summarized this in the book Philosophical Investigations. Now, I've got this book here close to me. Luckily, and here it is. Philosophical Investigations by Ludwig Wittgenstein. And this was a complete antithesis to his previous views, which were summarized in the book Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. Sounds like a book from Harry Potter, boss. Sounds like a book from Harry Potter. Yeah. So obviously he changed his views radically, and because of this, Bertrand Russell wasn't happy, and they weren't. Well, maybe they were still friends, but yes, there was some tension between them. So yes, Wittgenstein is a thinker I highly recommend, and the two books, his main two books, are the ones I just mentioned: Philosophical Investigations and Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. I've got that as well somewhere here, but I won't find it for now. I'll leave it on the shelf, let it collect some dust, and yes, these two books, they're obviously. The brilliant thing about this book is you don't really have to read it in order. By this I mean you don't have to start from page 1 and work your way through, because as you can see, the book is divided into sections. Yes, so proposition 544, for example, reads: "When longing makes me cry, oh, if only he would come. The feeling gives the words meaning, but does it give the individual words their meanings? But here one could also say that the feeling gave the words truth. And from this you can see how the concepts merge here. This recalls the question, what is the meaning of a mathematical proposition?" So it's really a madness, Wittgenstein. Obviously, sometimes it's hard to really grasp what he's trying to get at, to grasp his thought, and that's why you should read it slowly. You should think, reflect on your own life, your own experiences, and then something starts popping up in your mind. You notice, oh, okay, I understand what the problem is now. I understand why philosophy is so important. Because philosophy, why is philosophy so important? It's important because it questions everything, right? We do need this sometimes. We need to question our values, what we actually value. We have to question whether we are on the right path, whether reality is as how we deem it to be. Because this healthy form of skepticism, it can clarify a lot of issues and put us on the right path. So yes, definitely Wittgenstein. And he was actually a homosexual. I didn't know about this, but near the end of his life, I believe he converted to Christianity, and he started to believe in God. So that's an interesting thing to note, yes, from his life. But anyway, moving on. So the next two are the two partners in crime, Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari. Now these two partners in crime, they were French philosophers, and obviously the French turn in philosophy is controversial. Some people hate these thinkers, the continental philosophers. Others view them as brilliant kind of generalists. So they as opposed to the analytic school of philosophy, which is based on logic and the analysis of language, etc. It's quite we could even say it's tied in some sense to mathematics. Yes. Whereas continental philosophy is rooted more in art, in music, in drama, in film, etc. And so it's completely different. It's a completely different style of philosophy, a completely different school of philosophy, and you have to read both schools, really. I think you have to pick and choose from both schools, because they all offer solutions, they all offer ideas, concepts, and thoughts that can improve your life. And so Gilles Deleuze, well, he was the more famous philosopher. Félix Guattari was his kind of sideman, we could say, but also an important part of the duo. But Gilles Deleuze was the master thinker here, and he was, in my view, he was brilliant. I could recommend so many books of his. I mean, I really am a big fan of Gilles Deleuze. I think he was a genius. I think he was the best thinker to have appeared from this French school of thought. Other thinkers were, for example, Lacan, Jean-Paul Sartre, Michel Foucault, and others. Yes, but he was the best one, I think. And well, I don't know if I had to pick one book by Gilles Deleuze. It's difficult because he also reflected on philosophy and other philosophers and interpreted philosophers in a new light. So this is he had two strands of thought. He analyzed philosophers of the past and shed new light on them, such as Nietzsche, David Hume, Spinoza, etc. But he also created his own philosophy, and he viewed philosophy as the creation of concepts. And this is a brilliant way of viewing philosophy, because when you create new concepts, you notice things in reality, and these new concepts that you create can help you navigate reality, we could say, because ideas, they have an impact. We're not just made from matter, from bones, from skin. Yes, we also have a soul, a spirit, and ideas have an impact on our well-being. As Plato famously said, ideas are the source of all things. And so ideas are necessary. They really help us along the journey. So one idea, for example, is one concept that Deleuze created was called the line of flight. The line of flight. And I applied this concept when I was running on the treadmill, yes? So I kind of imagined myself that I was kind of flying away, because obviously when you run on the treadmill it's quite monotonous. But kind of I had this thought in my mind, and it helped me in a way to make progress, yes? Line of flight, Deleuze. Let's see what AI has to say, but it'll be quicker, right? So the line of flight, lignée de fuite, I don't know how to pronounce it properly in French, developed by Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari in 1,000 Plateaus, is a process of deterritorialization, a creative escape, movement or transformation that breaks away from established structures, habits or societal controls. That's brilliant. That is brilliant, and this concept it really helped me to make progress, I guess, and it inspired me, yes, to take action. So Deleuze was a master thinker, a master concept creator, and therefore a master philosopher, I believe. And I guess, yes, one book that I would recommend by Deleuze is 1,000 Plateaus. So I've actually got this one here. I'll show you now. So here we have it, 1,000 Plateaus by Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari. And this was the second part of their series. The first was called Capitalism and Schizophrenia. The second was the second is called 1,000 Plateaus. Oh no, the first was anti-Oedipus, so it was against the Oedipus complex. It didn't believe in the Oedipus complex. It was anti. And this is the second part in the series, 1,000 Plateaus. So here it is. So yes, we've covered Deleuze, we've covered Wittgenstein. Now, if I had to pick a third philosopher, master thinker from the 20th century, it would either be Lacan, another French guy, or Heidegger. So I guess since we've had one French person, one French philosopher, we've had one British Austrian, yes, philosopher. Let's go for Heidegger. Yes, I guess Heidegger is the last thinker I would choose. over Lacan, I guess. But Lacan, I don't know Lacan's work that well. I've only read one book really on Lacan by Bruce Fink. So I made another video about this. So you can find it on my channel. But yes, what was the brilliant? Why was Heidegger so brilliant? Well, he was brilliant because obviously he was controversial. Again, many thinkers, mainly from the Anglosphere, they believed that he was not a sophist, but he was lost in his language, and that his thought was like a cloud of fog. Yes, there wasn't much concrete. Yes, there wasn't nothing concrete in there. Yes, it was just hogwash, we could say. Yes, just buffoonery and contains a complete lack of clarity. But I am of the opposite view. So I remember reading Being and Time for the first time at King's College in London, and it was a life-changing experience, I would say. Even as I was reading it, I had so many mini revelations. I'm sure my readers, my viewers out there, you have the same experience when you're reading a book and you have all these mini revelations in your brain, and so many things start making sense about what it means to be human, what it means to confront time, what it means to live authentically as opposed to inauthentically, what it means to have being, to be or not to be. After all, this is what Shakespeare said, yes? And this is why Heidegger is so brilliant, and obviously his master work is Being and Time, and it affected the whole world, really. It influenced countries and thinkers across the world, and I'm not surprised. It's a masterpiece, really, and I've got it here. Being and Time by Martin Heidegger. In German, it's called Sein und Zeit. Sein und Zeit. So I've got this translation it was translated by John Macquarie and Edward Robinson. I think they were the translators. I thought it was a good translation. Perhaps there are newer translations that are better than this one, but it was brilliant. A brilliant translation and a brilliant book. And I guess Martin Heidegger's main thesis is that when you operate under the authentic mode of care, if you care about things, if you care about objects, if you care about people, if you care about reality continuing, about life continuing, then you are living authentically. I guess this is one of the key theses of Martin Heidegger. He has many other great books. Another one that I would recommend is A Question Concerning Art and Technology. And this is a brilliant book. It's shorter, it's easier to read, I think, easier to understand. And I would also recommend this one. Obviously, Heidegger was a controversial figure. He supported Nazism. He was a Nazi, we could say. Obviously, he did dissociate himself afterwards from the movement, but just because he did so, we shouldn't reject his thought. Yes. So now, let me read part of my article. Maybe there's something I missed out. So obviously I included Deleuze, Heidegger, so Lacan is a new one. I don't know Lacan well, but this book that I read by Bruce Fink about Lacan, it made me notice that Lacan he was up there. He was definitely up there. And yes, so let's discuss the reasons why I chose him. I chose Heidegger since he is undoubtedly the preeminent philosopher when it comes to the dissection of being. And he was so astute and penetrative that we can say that in some way it extinguished the need for metaphysics. So Heidegger believed that metaphysics is no longer required, it's a myth, and that ontology is now no longer relevant. There's nothing more to say about being and ontology. If we are to follow the Western strand of thought. And he believed that the question of being, from the start of philosophy, beginning with Plato and even the pre-Socratics, they actually didn't realize or didn't take notice of being. So they only concern themselves with beings with a small b. So this is his view, and because of this, we have ended up in this nihilistic, period now in our time, where humanity has been divorced from being authentic, and only by reading Heidegger and also performing a complete U-turn can we recover our lost being and make progress. And this is by going all the way back to the beginning, to Heraclitus. This is what Heidegger noticed, and through this perhaps we can create a new philosophy. So this was Heidegger's opinion. Perhaps to some degree he's correct. Obviously here we could have a whole lecture about this, right? So I won't go into the topic. Let's move on now. So now Deleuze was my second choice. He was a master in concept creation. So this is what I said before. And yes, I forgot about this. So he elaborated on the idea of multiplicity. And by multiplicity, he means how every single object or person is in fact different from another. Yes, so we have this problem of the one and the many. We have human as a concept, as a group that contains humans. Yes, but every human is different from the other. Yes, and so therefore every human is unique in a sense. And this is basically what Deleuze was on about when he was talking about multiplicity. And because he elaborated on multiplicity, because he was able to create this kind of unique philosophy, it's able to appeal to every human being on Earth, I believe. And this is why I'm such a fan of Deleuze, really. So he really was an unorthodox thinker. He didn't like systematization. He didn't like to be, we could say, enslaved to a system of thought, and therefore he was a free thinker, really. And because of this, he created all these brilliant new concepts. And as I alluded to earlier, he resurrected the thought of other philosophers by interpreting them in a new light. So this was another brilliant aspect of Deleuze and his thought. By reading his interpretation of other philosophers, we can notice more things about them. Yes, and yeah, I found it cool how he teamed up with Félix Guattari. So you don't see this often. You don't see two male figures teaming up and doing work with each other, sharing thoughts, sharing ideas. I thought this was cool, a bit of a bromance going on there. I like this. It's quite healthy. It's nice, really. And yeah, there were two partners in crime, weren't they? So, yeah, brilliant. It was brilliant to watch. Well, not to watch, obviously. I wasn't alive then, but brilliant to read their works. So now, obviously, I could have gone for Lacan, but I made a video about Lacan, so obviously I picked Wittgenstein. So I've read Wittgenstein the least. I've only read 2 books by Wittgenstein. I don't know if he even wrote anymore. Perhaps he did. So Wittgenstein, his whole life is a reflection of philosophy, as I mentioned before. So initially he was a strict analytic philosopher. He pinned all his hopes on logic, but as he grew older, he performed a U-turn and he noticed the mystery of the universe, and he kind of rejected all of his previous views. And through his own personal process, so Wittgenstein went through this whole process and evolution in terms of his thought. Because he went through this, we are able to locate and determine our own approach to philosophy. So we could say that Wittgenstein took one for the team. He went through the whole process for us, and because he made the sacrifice for us, we are able to understand ourselves more and notice notice to which camp we belong. Yes, in which camp we belong. I think this is my interpretation of Wittgenstein. And so I included this rhetorical question: should philosophy just be based on the analytical approach and the logical clarification of language, based on the presupposition that philosophical problems are just a result of the misuse of language? Or is there in fact something deeper going on, and we should not be afraid of trying to appear obscure? So this is true. This is analytical philosophers. They criticize the continental school because they deem them to be obscure. But when you're trying to get deeper into things, when you're trying to reveal kind of the underlying aspects of reality, the more deeper aspects, obviously you will appear obscure because it's difficult to put into words what you feel and think, right? So this is why we need a bit of both. We need both continental philosophers and analytic philosophers to help us on the way. So now two honourable mentions before I finish are Albert Camus. So he was a philosopher, we could argue. Absurdism, so he was associated with the school of Absurdism. But he was more of a writer, we could say. He wrote literature, novels. So therefore he wasn't a strict philosopher per se, but he had a philosophical twang to him. And the second one is Karl Popper. Now, Karl Popper was an important thinker because he clarified what science is and why science is so important to our civilization, as opposed to scientism. So scientism is this irrational belief in science, where you're not allowed to question science. No, science has the ultimate access to the truth, etc. Scientists are the new priests. We need to trust the scientists, trust the science. Yes. Karl Popper wouldn't have agreed with this. Science is meant to constantly question itself by the process known as falsifiability, I believe. Karl Popper falsification. Sorry, theory of falsification. So Karl Popper's theory of falsification asserts that for a theory to be scientific, it must be testable and refutable rather than just confirmable. So exactly. So this is so important, right? Because if science is unable to do this, then it's no longer science. It's dogma, isn't it? And so this was why Karl Popper was also a key thinker. And now I didn't include other thinkers like Einstein, etc., because physics is not really my domain. I'm not a physicist. I'm more of a philosopher. I studied philosophy. I read many philosophical works, and I think because my interests concern the humanities and the social sciences, philosophy is necessary for me because it gives another angle to my thought. And yes, I kind of understand what philosophy is trying to get at and why philosophy is so important. I understand the problems that philosophy faces, why philosophy views itself as philosophy, even we could say why philosophy even poses these problems. I understand why philosophy does this, because it's necessary, and this is I'm just speaking obviously from the heart, speaking from my mind and what I think, really. And this is why philosophy will never die. Philosophy will never die. There's thinkers like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's a physicist who believes that philosophy is no longer necessary. I completely disagree. I think the brilliant thing about philosophy as well is that everyone can be a philosopher, and obviously some training is required, but you don't need major training. Anyone can be a philosopher, and through philosophy you are able to improve your life, improve your mental well-being, and become a more accurate and insightful thinker, really. So yes, I advise all my readers and viewers not to be afraid of these thinkers. I'm 100% sure that you will find something brilliant in any of their works, something that you can apply to your own life, and something that might clarify aspects of your own life and your previous experiences. So yes, that's the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope you discovered something important and valuable. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, please, because it will help me grow the channel and allow me to spread more vital information that I think will help a lot of people out there. If you like the video even more, then you consider supporting at Buy Me a Coffee. I will provide the link in the description. But of course, it's up to you. I'm obviously not forcing. I can't force you to donate anything. But yes, that's the end of the video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you once again for listening.